Dylan was at the high school where he works when he got a notification on his phone that the alarm of his Tesla Model 3 had been triggered. After rushing out to his car, he discovered that the left side of the front end had been ripped clean off. Fortunately, Sentry Mode had caught everything on video. After viewing the footage, it was obvious to Dylan that someone had obliterated the front of his car while pulling out of the spot next to his before taking off. Since the collision had occurred in a private parking lot, the police said they didn't want to get involved. Dylan went back to the school to report the incident to the security team to see if they could help him. Even though it originally appeared to be a hit and run, the girl who'd hit his Tesla returned with her information about 10 minutes later. It turned out she was a new driver who'd made a simple but very expensive mistake. In fact, when Dylan called State Farm to file an insurance claim, her car was so new it wasn't even insured yet. Dylan's insurance provider paid the repair bill, which ended up being over $5,400 US. Dylan was relieved when he didn't have to pay a single cent. Randy was driving his Model Y in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He was driving in the far left lane when a Jeep Wrangler came up quickly on his passenger side. As the Jeep passed Randy, another vehicle attempted to merge into the lane the Jeep was in. The Jeep swerved to avoid hitting the other vehicle and lost control. The Jeep crashed into the center barrier at high speed, ripping off a front wheel before stopping in the median. After pulling over, Randy rushed over to make sure the driver was okay. Thankfully, they weren't injured. Randy contacted the police and provided both them and the Jeep driver with copies of his Teslacam footage. Tony was driving on US Route 101 heading west from Encino to Oxnard in California when he noticed a black Subaru SUV switching lanes without signaling, speeding all the while. The Subaru sped up and hit a white car before T-boning a red SUV, causing it to roll several times. Tony checked on the driver of the red SUV, who was miraculously uninjured. He didn't bother checking on the driver of the Subaru. He wants to give a shout out to his brother Sony in Honolulu, and he wants to tell him that Tesla is better than Mercedes. Well, we won't argue with that. I'm pretty sure only boomers drive Mercedes these days anyway. Joel was stopped at a red light on his way to pick up his dog from doggy daycare in Austin, Texas. When the light turned green, he yielded to allow a pickup truck to enter traffic. He wishes he hadn't done that because the tailgate wasn't secured and white paint cans went flying out of the bed of the pickup. A car then drove over the cans, spreading the paint all over the road. The wet paint then sprayed all over the side of Joel's Tesla as he drove over it. The two main cars involved pulled over, and Joel drove straight to the self-car wash down the road and removed all the paint with a high-pressure hose. In the end, no permanent damage was done. Joel's wife Megan and his son Philip were in the car with him, and they insisted he share this story with Wham Bam. Philip and Joel regularly watch our videos on their Tesla's YouTube app while they wait for school to open so Joel can drop Philip off. Austin was driving his Model 3 in New Brunswick, New Jersey, when another driver pulled out into an intersection without checking for traffic. Austin had been on his way to get a burrito from a restaurant and parked nearby. When he walked back, he saw an ambulance along with a firefighting vehicle blocking the road. A firefighter was sweeping broken glass and car fluids away. Austin approached and gave him a copy of his Teslacam footage so he could pass it along to the police. Here comes a very Australian video from Matt in Brisbane, Australia. He was on his way home from work when he saw a guy waving his arms around and warning him about something in the road. Matt slammed on his brakes when he saw that it was a python and not the trouser variety in the middle of the road. Phew, that was a close one. Fortunately, the python quickly slithered away. Matt wants to give a shout out to the Crocodile Dundee mate who saved the python by waving at the drivers of approaching cars. As Chad pulled up to an intersection, a truck ran a red light, causing a van and a car to head straight for him. Luckily, Chad managed to swerve out of the way in time and avoided getting hit. The driver of the truck which had caused the mayhem fled the scene, so Chad decided to chase after him while calling 911, and the operator connected him directly to the responding deputy.
911, what is your emergency?
After following him for a while, speeds became too dangerous for Chad to continue, and the deputy asked him to back off. They then met up with Chad to watch the video in his Tesla. They used Chad's Teslacam video to attempt to locate the truck using the license plate number. The number was pretty strange looking, so Chad helped the deputy figure out the plate number. Chad overheard the deputy's conversation with their dispatcher, and when the dispatcher returned the driver's information to the deputy, he took off to go directly to his house to have a little talk with him. John was at a traffic light in Austin, Texas, when he noticed a truck behind him had come to a complete stop. While he was checking out the map on his center console to see what his next turn would be, bam! To John, it felt like someone had punched him in the back. Looking in his rearview mirror, he saw the truck slowly backing away from him. At first, he assumed that someone must have rear-ended the truck and pushed it forward into him. John approached the other driver and asked if that's what had happened, before realizing there were no other cars behind the truck. The truck driver just said, "I can't believe I just did that." John was still a bit confused about what had happened, but the guy just kept repeating, "I can't believe I just did that." He seemed shaken up, so John just told him that everything would be fine. The damage looked minimal at first, but the trunk lid on John's Tesla would barely open or close. Insurance covered the repair cost of $7,400 US. Alan was driving his Model 3 in Las Vegas, Nevada. While slowing down for traffic, he was rear-ended by an Infiniti. The next day, he called his insurance provider State Farm, and they told him they already had a claim on file for the accident. The other driver had already called his insurance provider and told them the accident was Alan's fault and that Alan had pulled out in front of him. Alan says, "Thank God for the Tesla cameras." Once he sent his Teslacam footage to State Farm, they immediately contacted the other driver's insurance provider and they accepted full responsibility. The repairs cost $6,000 US. One of Rob's personal conditions for buying a Tesla was that he wouldn't give up his hobby of cleaning up litter. The following incident occurred just 3 days after he picked up his brand new Model Y. Rob was scouting for a parking spot on a road that he wanted to clean up. This shop was perfect, but he wanted to ask for permission to park all day so he wouldn't get in trouble. The two attendees were happy to let him park there, but just as they were walking away, a cart suddenly had a mind of its own. It was a close call, but Rob figures the cart demon gave him a break because he was cleaning up the neighborhood. Check out the results of Rob's cleanup efforts. Rob does this twice per week, and folks always have a hard time understanding why he's putting bags of trash in the back of his Tesla. Annie Sue was driving her Model 3 in Los Angeles, California. She was going through an intersection when another car suddenly ran their red light. The other driver stopped at first, but then he drove through the intersection, causing Annie to T-bone him. Annie was going 45 miles per hour, but she managed to slow down to about 20 miles per hour before the impact. The other driver said he didn't know why he'd driven through the red light and that he thought it had turned green. Annie was without her Tesla for 2 weeks, and insurance paid $1,300 US to repair the frame and bumper. She also hired a lawyer to help her get reimbursed for missed time at work, gas for a rental car, and chiropractic treatments for her back. Chester was driving his Tesla behind a car that was swerving within its lane. He wanted to go around it, but he didn't want to get too close to such an unpredictable vehicle. Chester engaged the full self-driving beta and allowed autopilot to take over just in case the other driver decided to slam on the brakes. Inevitably, the other driver drifted out of his lane and slammed into another vehicle stopped at a red light, causing it to spin 90 degrees. Chester stopped and made sure everyone was okay. There weren't any major injuries and no airbags had deployed. The police were contacted and the driver of the Toyota was cited with traffic violations and given a court date when he'll be able to plead his case. Chester plans to be there to challenge any lies they might come up with. Ben was driving his Model 3 in Bloomington, Illinois when he noticed a truck with California plates in front of him. Immediately, he worried they might notice his Tesla behind them and roll coal. Sure enough, they did, but they nearly spun out in the process. Ben quickly hit the juice pedal to get around them. Ben sent us the recording from his aftermarket dashcam since its footage is higher quality. Hey, no bashing on Teslacam. Paul was driving his Model 3 in Canberra, Australia. He was turning left when a police car turned across the median with lights flashing. Paul stopped to let it complete the turn, but the driver behind him didn't see the police car and slammed into the back of Paul's Tesla. Paul sent in an insurance claim and now he's waiting for a repair quote from Tesla. He wanted us to give a shout out to his son Felix, who was with him in the car at the time. Hey there, Felix! For this clip, we're moving from Australia to Austria. Mike was having a problem with someone unplugging his Tesla every day when he'd leave it at a public charging station. This station is provided for public use by the local administration of Mike's small town. The mayor had it installed a decade ago before anybody there even had an EV, and Mike loves using it to top off his battery while he's in town. Mike turned on Sentry Mode to see if he could find out who'd been unplugging him. Eventually, the culprit did it again. Ironically, the guy actually works for the local administration. He was easily identified since everybody knows each other in a small town like Mike's, so he went and visited him at home to have a talk. He agreed not to bother Mike's car anymore, but he said he doesn't think someone driving an expensive car should be allowed to charge for free. Yes, it happened again. Someone made a sign for Wham Bam Teslacam and showed it to the Sentry Mode cameras of a parked Tesla. This clip comes from Mahad, who had his Tesla parked behind his house. He says he doesn't know the guy, but obviously he's a big fan and would appreciate a shout out. It looks like the sign says, "Send this to Wham Bam Teslacam YouTube channel. I'm a huge fan. From me, subscribe." What a perfect ending to today's episode. See you all back here on Wednesday.
Wham, cram, Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.